response Northwest 7, rapid response Northwest 7, rapid response Northwest 7, booth open. A rapid response is an emergency in a hospital. Every hour or so, we're having an emergency called for respiratory distress. We must have done already 5 intubations since 6 a.m. this morning. They're going to try to move the patient into the bed because right now the patient collapsed into a chair.
Well, his oxygen is getting low.
Yeah, what do you need?
Can I get an ET holder?
And they should get ET holder?
This is typically what you would think of as a crashing patient. We're bagging him and we're using some other mechanisms to increase the positive pressure that we can provide.
Patient had some difficulty breathing, became hypoxic, and required mechanical ventilation.
Thank you.
I've never seen anything as heart-wrenching as COVID-19.
Thank you, Dr.
You're welcome. Got it?
Yes.
Every second is critical and in terms of saving the patient's life. Every second counts.
Hit by the coronavirus is extending orders to stay at home. New York will remain largely shut down until at least May 15th. There are signs that social distancing measures are working there, but the crisis is far from over and millions are still.
The bad news is 2,000 people walked into a hospital yesterday for the first time with the disease, and you have hospitals that are dealing with hell every day. I understand the toll on the healthcare system. I understand the nurses and the doctors who are stretched to their limits.
You know, it's been very challenging, difficult month. All of us have seen a lot of loss, even people we know, friends, family. I mean, all of us have been touched by this in one way or the other. So I just want to have, again, a moment of silence, just to ponder all that, think about what's been going on the last month.
I've never seen so much death. So many of the patients are dying, despite our best efforts. You know, I think about 9/11. That was something with a beginning and an end. This has a beginning, but I think about, like, where's the end?
You having trouble breathing?
They had 5 rapid responses and 2 cardiac arrests already. We're sitting right here in the command center.
752C.
We built this basically within 2 weeks' time to be able to provide some kind of resource to all of the critically ill patients throughout the hospital.
I have the medicine bag. Where's the code? Okay.
The pandemic has challenged all of us. There are more patients who are critically ill, on ventilators,
Give me a second by car.
with multiple organ failures than has ever been seen before.
Time will be up to 4:49.
449?
4:49.
I have profound respect for my colleagues. They're the ones who were there every day on the front lines, going in those rooms with the patients.
Let me just see.
They're the ones who are taking the biggest risk. We're all vulnerable. Any of us can get it.
I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Badillo. A lot of the patients, when we come to them, we're wearing this whole outfit. It could be a little scary. So someone thought of the idea that if we had our pictures next to our name, they could see a friendly smile and let them see that we're real people who care about them and want to take good care of them. So what happened? What made you come to the hospital today?
I came in and I feel so sick.
You felt so sick.
I couldn't breathe.
You can't breathe. Many patients don't just come in with shortness of breath. They don't come in with the classic cough. It's very insidious how it presents itself. Is there someone you want to call? I could put them on FaceTime on my phone, and you could talk to someone if you want. I saw the fear in people's eyes when they couldn't breathe. They looked for hope, reaching out for someone to see them and to help them.
You are in the meeting now. Teresa?
Good morning, everyone. In terms of PPE, so gowns remain our most challenging item. Check out the back. There's significant price gouging going on, so we continue to constantly vet new items. Right now, in this pandemic, I am leading the institution's COVID-19 response. Every day, there's a new crisis around infection control or personal protective equipment, or a new scenario that we hadn't considered. It does feel like the perfect storm. It's a virus that spreads easily. We've never seen it before. It also is not clear how long it lasts and how long people can spread the virus for. Our population is not the same as Wuhan or another city in the United States. We are unique. We are the Bronx. And we know that our patients have, at higher rates, many of the underlying medical conditions that seem to make people more sick if they get this virus. And so we have been very concerned from day one that our patients could be severely affected in a different way than other places. There are so many things about this virus that make it a nightmare.
CAC, Cloud 4. CAC, Cloud 4. CAC, Cloud 4.
CAC is a code for cardiac arrest. It's likely a patient who we just put on a ventilator, who is quite sick and now has had a cardiac arrest. We haven't recognized yet a patient who goes on a ventilator and has a cardiac arrest who's subsequently able to survive. Ideally, CPR would have been started already by the doctors there, and it has. It is a patient who came into the hospital already with a lot of medical problems, and now she has this disease, and she's elderly.
$153/75.
It feels good to have brought her back, but on the other hand, I'm not sure it's going to ultimately change her outcome. She's back now, but if she has another cardiac arrest, if she dies again, I think we should let her be. I think it could be her time. There's also a concern always when you bring someone back who has a very poor prognosis that you actually could be prolonging their death. So that's something that we have to wrestle with every day. It's very sad.
Charlie's gonna be the disc breather on the corner 123rd and 2nd Avenue. Disc breather, fever cough, 10 Charlie.
We're in the Bronx. We're in the, I guess, northeast Bronx. We're on East Gun Hill.
The danger right now that I see, if they think everything should go back to normal too soon, it could be another wave that we can even be hit harder. And as you can see, we're not really prepared for something like this. Before COVID, we had people dying 1 every 9 minutes. We would generally get cardiac arrest around 6 to 7 a.m. about once or twice a week.
I want to say there's nothing life-threatening happening.
But now it's just happening at all hours of the day. Because the hospitals are so overwhelmed, it's a mass casualty incident at the moment with the city.
This is the biohazard container. I'm going to just replenish the supplies.
So the new protocol now is we will try for 20 minutes to resuscitate a patient.
This is all PPE equipment.
And if there's no response to our interventions, we would have to pronounce on scene. Pronounce means that this patient has died. The 50-year-olds is really what stands out to me because I didn't see many of those. And I've been on the job 17 years, but never this concentrated and this frequent.
It's nonstop. We're assuming everyone does have it.
I got sick for 2 weeks and then I came back.
And I'd say 8 out of 10 calls, 9 out of 10 calls is COVID related.
Normally, we would transport the patient with either a family member or their health aide, and we're turning those people away. And the biggest concern is like, this might be the last time you see your family member.
We're gonna stop you here. We're gonna get you registered right here.
On an average day, we might have somewhere on the order of 600 or 700 people in the hospital. We have been running a census well over 1,000 for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Where on earth are we going to put people? This area is our conference center for the hospital. At first, it kind of felt like there's no way we could do this, right? Sure enough, within a matter of days, we had walls built, we had gas run and electrical, and before I knew it, it was open and accepting patients.
Hey, Christian, how's it going? It's Dr. Locke again. Is it okay if we chat for a little bit?
My name is Christian Cameron. When I went to my job, I was feeling, a little dizzy, nauseous. So I went to the doctor and they were like, oh, you have the symptoms. I was just shocked. I was a week in my house and everything got worse.
Once he came into the hospital, his breathing was worse. His chest x-ray showed worsening inflammation in the lungs, and his oxygen levels dropped. That prompted a move to the intensive care unit, where he was getting maximal oxygen assist via mask in order to keep his oxygen levels where they need to be.
Through this COVID-19, many people have been having nightmares. And this one crazy nightmare I had was like, when I just wake up and I see my own body there. And I'm just like, what happened to my dad? Then I wake up just like scared.
I told my son, this is not the end. We're gonna keep fighting. We're gonna keep fighting. He said, okay. I wanted to help him.
This is me and my brother's bedroom. This is where he sleeps, and this is my bed. One thing that reminds me of him when he's gone is this. He actually gave me this when I was just born. I've had it for 13 years. I don't let nobody touch it. It just always reminds me of him. He's actually everything for me. Like, that's sad that I'm not with him right now. He's like my role model. Lord, we thank you for this day that you gave us another chance for my brother.
How are you feeling today?
I just want to go home.
You want to go home?
I ask you to give him the strength to get out of the bed and come back home.
Let me know if you're feeling dizzy or lightheaded, okay?
It was actually very scary for us, not knowing what's happening with him and not being able to see him. We ask you to help those in need, those who are sick, and to help our family become one again.
it's not just a simple pneumonia. They actually are progressing to the most severe form of respiratory failure that we know. That is the acute respiratory distress syndrome.
Rapid response Northwest 7, rapid response Northwest 7, rapid response Northwest 7.
This is a gentleman that we were called about yesterday for some respiratory difficulty. We put him on higher amount of oxygen, and he did okay, but this morning he's worse and is in more distress. So now they're going to get him ready for intubation. Now this is a situation that we try to avoid if we can, because every one of these intubations poses a risk to my doctors who are doing it. Bodily fluids from the lung oftentimes are spewed into the air during the process of intubation.
S3 and glide and style.
There are no small emergencies. They're all patients having respiratory distress or cardiac arrest. They have now attached him to the ventilator, and they're trying to get his oxygen up and his blood pressure up. And oftentimes they're simultaneous.
Another one? I need to go and assist. All right, make sure we get the intubation tray, please. Somebody down there, give me an intubation tray.
We had just put the first patient on a breathing machine, and within a few minutes the team came and tells us that, there's another patient down the hall that's getting worse.
You're focused on the process. You are kind of in that zone of just trying to do a good job.
Oxygen levels very, very low.
We need another ET tube holder. There's none in the cart. Okay. Yeah, it's here. We got it.
This is a typical day during this pandemic.
The ventilator is here now.
During the entire pandemic, the stress level has been very high. Critical care physicians, we're used to taking care of the sickest patients in the hospital, but now we're taking care of a hospital that has been the sickest as it's ever been.
We begin this morning with a contentious issue of whether to reopen the nation after so much of it has been closed down due to the coronavirus.
The lights may be on in New York, but businesses are still shut down.
There are calls for the city to do more to reach communities that are taking the brunt of the coronavirus pandemic.
Bronx is my home. I was born here. I was raised here. I work here. I serve my community. My community's been hit hard. It breaks my heart to see my neighbors, my family. I have several family members that are COVID positive and quarantined at home. I've been a nurse since 2011, and never in my dreams did I think I'd live to see a pandemic and take part in something so grand beyond myself. It broke my heart to see these people suffer alone.
Okay, just putting a little bit of ointment, okay?
I allowed myself to feel the pain, but to know that I'm there. My coworkers are there, my team is there, that we're working as hard as we can to get these people better and get them home to their families.
New testing sites have opened in some of the hardest hit neighborhoods as new information about disparities paints a more dire picture.
Why is it that the poorest people always pay the highest price?
Think about all the neighborhoods of people that live on top of each other. How are they able to social distance, which is like such a major point. Like, we're fortunate, you know, we have a house.
It is necessary for us to acknowledge that some communities have been touched by this COVID more than others. Oh, some people, there's been reports, some people wait until the elevator is empty. It is not fair that minority communities, African American, Hispanic, poor, are victims of this disease. And you could really pinpoint it to be that they're in close proximity. They can't escape COVID. My family is my support system. My husband, you know, not only does he make my meals, he irons my uniform. He's just helps me to get my job done.
I think that should be okay for her. I work in the construction field, and a couple of people tested positive in different trades, plumbers, construction, and they closed down the construction site.
Bob, are you ready?
And I'm able to get unemployment, but I've heard like a lot of people have problems. A lot of people losing their jobs. You know, it's really bad out there. I worry all the time because she's in that environment. She's in the front line.
I'll see you later, Bob. All right, you too. So this patient's sick as well. She's one of our sickest. All right. I'll clean her mouth. I'll do mouth care on her mouth. No matter whether my patients are responsive to me or not, I always like to talk to my patients. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. One more time. It's a connection that I make with them. Make sure her feet are okay. These patients require a lot of care because we don't want their skin to break down. When you talk about the toll that this whole disease, COVID, takes on me, it bothers me, but I can't break down. 92, now she's 91. Vented at 91, okay. Without my faith, I couldn't do this job. It's what gets me through each day, and it helps me to give strength to my patients. I draw on my faith to help them.
My name is Father Salvatore Di Stefano. I'm the pastor of the parish of St. Clare's and St. Francis Xavier in the Morris Park section of the Bronx, and many of my parishioners are being treated at Montefiore Hospital for COVID-19. We used to have, I would say, pretty much full churches, and now there's nobody there. Having an empty church is very strange. It's not just important for the congregation to have their priest. The priest needs his congregation. He really does.
Eternal Father, I offer you the body and blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ.
What we decided to do was to take the Blessed Sacrament and go around the neighborhood in the back of a pickup truck and like a sort of a 21st century procession. Bless you, sisters. And it was really, really beautiful to see all the people come out. Some of them were saying thank you.
Hip, hip, hooray!
Bless you, Marty.
God bless you, Father.
Bless you, Kathy and Jeff, the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. But some of them were praying.
Oh, God bless you. Divine mercy. Oh, my God.
Bless your little doggy there. Sometimes when we're faced with these difficulties like this, your faith is tested. And people are showing that they do have great faith.
O Lord, hear my prayer, and let my cry come unto thee. The Lord be with you, and with your spirit. Let us pray.
I had been really, holding it together. Hi, Jeff. But when I heard that this patient I took care of passed,
we knew earlier in the day that she wasn't doing well. Her blood pressures weren't good anymore, even though she was on the pressure support. She died comfortably.
I wouldn't want my daughter to go through this, or my husband to lose me. And so the passing of that patient, that beautiful person, made it really real for me.
Working in the ER, I tap into my faith.
Yep, thank you.
I always had faith. I always have hope.
Thank you.
I was born and raised in the Bronx. I'm a Bronx kid. The Bronx mentality is, you know, you're satisfied with the little that you get, even though you always want a little bit more. We were raised on welfare, food stamps, and Medicaid. My mother knew that the only way out of poverty was an education. ¿Cómo te sientes? Mucho mejor, okay. Montefiore is settled in the middle of the Bronx with, it's multicultural.
¿Tú quieres hablar con tu familia?
It really is a center point for our community to come and get really good care.
Okay, que Dios te bendiga. Bye-bye.
It's always a win when you could do that. You know what I mean? It's such a score. Wow. You don't have to speak English. You don't have to have any money. We're going to take care of you. Hey, baby.
Hello, Dr. Love.
Dr. Love was created.
Hey, guys.
One night, it was about a week after the whole pandemic hit and the city closed down. We had patients stacked upon patients, and one of my fellow colleagues was not having a good day. So I put Dr. Love on my PPE, and she broke a smile. And I realized that the heaviness in the ER needed a little lightness, and Dr. Love was born. Yo, Daryl, give me love.
Hi!
Yo.
She just loves her patients. She gets 120%.
They're coming with some medications for you, okay?
Thank you, dear.
Okay, dear.
Oh,
They're coming.
thank you.
Okay. God, help me. You coming to my party later?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys are all invited to the party.
Okay.
8:30-ish, be there. Every night, my best friend Lori comes to the ER. She gathers other bakers, and they bake cookies, cupcakes, muffins, and they attach beautiful little notes. Love you. I love you too, honey. Bye. Be good. Party time, guys. Bring a date. Guys, party time. We're going to the party? On West Side, yeah, come on.
Rounds on the West Side.
I bring the love Lori gives me to all of them. And then in turn, the hope is that they give it to the patients. And it just keeps circulating in the ER. You're brilliant, dedicated, strong, and most of all, loved. And when I turn around and I see the box when it's empty, I know I'm not alone. How can you not feel that? It's just too much. All right, everybody, back to work.
Now the tube is coming out, the ET tube just came out, and she's breathing on her own.
Every time on our unit we take a patient off a ventilator, we like to celebrate that moment.
Yay! Oh, where's my cowbell?
Since COVID, it's been difficult to find, the light in the darkness, but you celebrate in the little victories.
Happy code, happy code, happy code.
Happy code, happy code.
A happy code is when they announce throughout the PA system the amount of discharges, COVID discharges, as well as COVID extubations.
Yes.
Yo, we got 2 in here.
When?
We have 1 discharge, 1 extubation. That's it.
Once a happy code is announced, they play Empire State of Mind by Alicia Keys.
Wait, you gotta wait for it.
It's just so hopeful, and it brings so much joy. Seeing someone no longer need a breathing tube, no longer need the help of a ventilator. It's indescribable unless you were there. I've seen patients where I was like, oh my goodness, are they gonna make it? And they do, and it was worth it. just absolutely worth it.
Cameron?
Yes.
Okay, you're going up today. It was a pleasure taking care of you. And this is your instruction.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can't wait to go home. I'll see my family. I'll miss this place, you know.
What do you miss about it?
The workers, honestly. The way they work, it motivates everybody, you know, to get better.
Hello. Hi, how are you? We all feel blessed. We feel happy. My mom feels happy. She's not sad anymore. My dad feels happy. We're all happy.
It's gonna take time to he can get a 100%, but we're happy to have him back at home. They told me I can come pick it up him anytime. We want to tell him, I'm gonna say is I love you. Now we're gonna just take care of him and that's it.
Are you ready now?
Yeah.
Yeah, feel better.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love you, mijo.
I know you do.
I love you, mijo.
I'm all right.
Thank you.
I'm so happy. Thanks to God. We're back to life. This is the second opportunity that God gave us to us.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck, guys.
All right, then.
A huge show of support tonight for all the brave frontline workers.
He hasn't been biopsied, right? I had taken care of patients at the very beginning of the uptick in COVID. And approximately a week after that, I came down with COVID myself. We're in uncharted territory now. So I would suggest that if it's one thing to take care of patients, and I knew what risk I was taking. It's another thing, for my family. All right, boys, ready for dinner? The toughest part was getting my family sick. Watching, my husband with a high fever in bed was hard. I'm one of those people who deal with stress better when I know there's something I can do to make things better. So in some ways, work is kind of therapeutic to me. Are they ready for me to send them? One of my attendings had the idea, as some of us were out with COVID, to celebrate our return by basically creating this pin that says, we've recovered from COVID. The pandemic is almost like the war front in terms of what we have to do and the triaging and the work that we do. So this is kind of like our Purple Heart from going into battle and coming back to do more.
Hey, good morning.
How you feeling?
We had sick patients yesterday during the day, so the acuity seems to be high still. Volume was higher than it had been like in a week, actually.
All right.
Yeah, we had seen as low as like 80 something a day. Yesterday, I think it was like 135.
All right. My worst moment during this pandemic was for sure the day we started to talk about what happens if we run out of ventilators.
We heard that was happening in Italy, and we were saying, no, it can't happen to us. But that day, I realized, my God, we could be Italy. This could happen to us.
Who am I to make the choice of who gets a breathing machine and who doesn't? Who is anyone to make that choice? That evening, driving home, I cried the entire way home because I needed to take a moment to feel the weight of what that meant and to really think about the place that we were in. I think that I've had to come to terms with uncertainty on a more continuous basis than I ever have before.
We will ask each and every one of us to pray.
I definitely think we will be changed for the long run.
He has been keeping us from the beginning of this pandemic.
The things that we did week 1 of this outbreak are completely different than the things that we're doing now because we've learned along the way.
Good morning, mister.
I cannot say enough good things about the nurses that work here.
Knock, knock. Hi, it's Selena, your nurse again. So I'm just checking on you.
I am so just taken aback by their ability to not only help to heal these patients, but the way that they care for them.
You want to lift a little bit for me? Does that feel better? Okay.
You know, our patients right now can't see their families. It's a horrible thing to be sick and to not be able to talk to your family members.
¿Tú te sientes mejor ahora que ve la familia? Sí. Él dice que se siente mejor ahora que pudo verla a ustedes por video. Ahora sí se siente mejor.
I think it brings out the most wonderful things in humanity, even as we're experiencing, you know, so many bad things and so much loss.
You do your best. You do what you know best. I remember our first COVID death. The family kept saying they're gonna die alone. And we told them, no, they're not. And the entire unit sat in front of the room and waited for them to pull the tube and allow them to go on their own. And we said a prayer, we said goodbye. And we told the family, no, they didn't die alone, they died with us.
We sometimes linger over the things that didn't go over well, the patients that we have lost. But most of us actually know we have a job to do.
Rapid response, Northwest 6. Rapid response, Northwest 6, blue zone.
He's the guy who's going to the ICU. So they must be having some trouble with his ventilator.
Who's the code leader?
Where are the gowns? He was intubated. He's waiting for an ICU bed. His oxygen level fell. You know what? Let's maybe take him off and bag him to get his oxygen up. Because I'm not convinced he's moving his chest wall very well. Let's just take the vent out of the equation. An amp of atropine and an amp of epi at the bedside. He's got a good blood pressure. He's got a good pulse. Sometimes we can tell if a patient can improve by pushing down on the chest a bit. So that prevents the chest wall from rising up and redirects the air that the ventilator is giving to the back of the lungs. We're going to take him to the surgical ICU and stabilize him there. This patient is very sick. I know that we're going to do everything we can to give him every chance of surviving, and I hope he does, but he is very sick, and I don't know what will happen.
Please clear all corridors.
81, pulse ox, heart rate 104.
Even 7 days, we still have a full hospital. There's a vent in there already. So these are still not normal times, and these are still very sick patients. I've always considered myself lucky and privileged to work with my colleagues. But during this pandemic, I've been awed I've had a number of my clinicians actually get sick. And that can be hard because I know that they got sick partly because I sent them in to do a job. But every single one of them, instead of worrying about themselves, their biggest complaint is, I should be out there taking care of the patients at the front line with the rest of you. That's bravery. Emergencies continue. We'll continue to respond, and we'll take it one day at a time.
So this unit is now closed to patients. We had it up and running for less than 3 weeks to accommodate this enormous surge of patients that we had here. And it feels somehow strange, even after just a short time of looking like this, that it's empty and there's no patients in here. But it's a beautiful sight. It's such a hard thing to know if we're gonna need to use this space again. I certainly hope that we don't, but I do have fears that we will.
I have patients from this pandemic that I will take with me for the rest of my life. I will always remember their names, I will remember their stories, and I will honor them. When I give care, I'll think of them. They will never be forgotten.
In the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, we have moms bringing in new life into this world. Truly, that's what keeps us going and gives us all hope for the future.
Gracias, gracias, gracias.
Seeing my mom and brother again really touched me because I didn't expect that, I was going to be able to come home and, actually hug her again.
Every one of us is still coming to work to support our community, to support the Bronx, to support compassionate care for all of our patients.
When we gather together as a team to take care of a patient who can't breathe, that's love. Students who don't know me, sending me cards, that's love. It's been such a powerful source that gives me the strength to go into the ER. I've learned the power of love.